If you want to have a knifing slice just like Federer, there's only 3 things you really need to know to do it. And I'm going to show you what those 3 things are in this video. So let's get started. So when you see Roger Federer using his knifing slice, it's because of so many reasons that you should start incorporating in your game too. That's the very first thing we're going to talk about, which is why should you be using a slice? Well, you should use a slice when you're in trouble and you're trying to buy yourself time. You should not be using a slice when you get a short ball unless you're going to come to the net and approach just to hit it back in the court. I see this often, that players are so enamored about hitting a slice that they actually get an opportunity for their opponent, they move into the court and they hit a slice back and they run back to the baseline. That's not the time to hit a slice. That's the time to attack. So if you are going to hit a slice in that moment, you need to hit the slice and come to net and use it as an approach shot. So the other times we want to hit a slice is maybe just to mix it up. How many players don't like the change of speed and spin? And that's why slice is so effective. So now let's get into what does it take to really hit a slice. Very first thing I want you to understand in your mind is that there's only really 3 main positions I think that you should be concerned with, which is the preparation, the pull, and the racket face. Okay, if you get all 3 of those things going on, you're gonna be really golden on your slice. The biggest mistake a lot of players make on their slice is they don't understand the preparation, the pull, and the racket face. And this is why when they get prepared for the ball, it feels like they can't get behind it. When they try to pull, they're using the wrong muscles, generally their elbow, which causes tennis elbow. And when they hit it with the racket face, the ball looks like a starship, or I guess that's Elon Musk and SpaceX. It looks like a starship going up to the stars. Well, we don't want that. So let's get started. First thing we want to talk about is the grip. I think you should have a Continental Grip, and this is why. The Continental Grip is just like your serving grip, so it makes it really easy to find. There's not like an extra grip you have to kind of wonder like, okay, I have my volley grip and then I have my slice grip, or I have my backhand, which a lot of times your backhand bottom hand, if you're a two-hander, will be in a Continental Grip. If you're one-hander, it doesn't matter because you might have an Eastern Grip. Once you have a Continental Grip, this really sets you up to be in a strong position at contact. And really, it's really simple to find a Continental Grip. I like just doing like if you're gonna use this as a hammer or holding your wrist all the way up and keeping this nice and flat. Generally, this puts you in a Continental Grip. If you just want like very accurate dials on flat 1, flat 2, that's where you're gonna put this pad and this pad here. And you're gonna put them right here, and that'll put you in the Continental Grip. The very first position you want to understand is the preparation. And for the preparation, the very first thing I want you to do is to use your left hand to pull the racket back. And when we're pulling the racket back, I want you to think of the butt of the racket facing this way and the strings facing this way. So it's all going to go split and pull. And this is a really important move, because by pulling and using your left hand here, it actually separates my hips from my shoulders. Look at, boom, as I turn, my shoulders are deeper facing this way and my hips are this way. With this position, I can now uncoil when I'm ready to do my pull. But it's really important that you get used to this. Now, a great way to practice this is just sit for a while, split, and I want you to pull the left hand back and then grab it with your right. You should feel a stretch. Pull back. And another thing is your racket edge is going to be somewhere right here. I like to just rest it right on my shoulder or even sometimes my collarbone. Just rest it, boom, and I'm pulling, boom, pulling, boom. And this is the drill you want to do, so instantly when you see the ball, you start off with this action of running and pulling if you know you're going to hit a slice. Now the next action is the pull. And what I mean by pull, I'm pulling the racket forward and across my body. I'm not going directly out. I see this a lot of times where players are hitting slices and they're doing this. When you go directly out like this, what happens a lot of times, you use your elbow to extend and you get stuck. I want you to think of when you go to the gym and you're using the cable crossover machine. Have you ever seen that machine where you're pulling across and you're keeping your arm straight and you're really pulling from right around here forward? This is the muscle that we want to use as we step forward. So if we put it in context, we've prepared and now we're going to step and turn our hips, which starts the pull. Okay, so how do we do the pull? What's a great way of doing the pull? Well, it's really just knocking on a door. So I'm going to stand right here on purpose because when I'm here, I'm going to have my hand here and I'm going to pretend that there's a door right here, right where this line is. And so if I was going to use my back muscles here, the pull, and knock on this door, this is the muscle I would be using to pull. Now, it's really important that you notice this, and it might be hard to see from that angle. You probably can see it from this angle. My arm's not going out. This is going in a straight line. My arm's coming across. And I think this is really important. By coming across, it gives you a ton of options that you see the pros use that you should have access to too. Meaning that when they're stretched and they're reaching out wide, they can come across and still hit a great ball cross court, whether it be a knifing slice and keeping it low because their opponent's moving in the net, or whether they open up the racket face, which we're going to talk about in a second, and they hit a defensive ball. Okay, they're all the same. If you're trying to go straight out, it becomes very hard to do that. The other thing about coming across, it's nice because on a low ball, when you come across and through, it adds side spin and underspin, making it more difficult because your ball, as it hits, starts to jet to one side and makes your opponent have to adjust to it. The worst thing to ever happen is the ball spinning in a direction and your opponent's not ready for it. And that's the benefits of coming across the ball, because you're not only hitting underspin, but side spin. And if you're hitting side spin on a slice, it's not a bad thing. If you watch the pros, especially from behind, and you see Federer and other players coming across, what you see is the ball do a slight curve. And I think they're doing that because it makes it more difficult. Not only that, it allows you to come across and really keep the ball low, especially if your opponent's coming in at. So we've talked about the pull. So the exercise here, if we do the preparation here, is to pull the racket here. I'm pulling the racket here. Now, one thing that I really want to put on the pull is it's just not a pull from the shoulders, I should say. It's actually a pull from the hips, then the shoulders. So if you see my hips as I'm stepping and I'm pulling my hips, that starts, and then I pull my shoulders. So this is this kind of wave of energy that I prepare, I step if I have time, and I'm going to turn my hips. Great way of turning hips is just turning the back knee a little bit. You don't need a lot. Because if I turn my back knee, look what it does. It already pulls the racket forward, and all I have to do is release the hand, pull, and boom. Turn the back knee again, pull, and boom. Now, we're getting to the final thing, which is racket face. Remember this rhyme. You're like, I came to a tennis video for a rhyme. The racket face sends it and the path bends it. So we've talked a lot about the path coming across the ball, which creates the side and underspin, but we haven't talked about the racket face, which sends it. And this is important because if my racket face is open, and I won't even hit that high, but you'll see exactly where it goes. My racket face is open when I do this. You see how the ball kind of goes straight up? I'll do it again, even open it some more. That's not a bad thing. That's actually a really good thing, AKA it's called a drop shot. If you open your racket face, okay, and not hit it so hard, and the ball goes up fairly, not super high if you don't hit it hard, it actually starts to drop on your side of the net and comes over and hits a drop shot. That's kind of how you hit a drop shot. Now, if you don't want it to go so high, what you're going to do is, as you're pulling, making sure that you turn your forearm to make sure the racket face is more direct in the court. So if you really look at your forearm here, okay, and this kind of lines up with my racket, as I turn my forearm, it adjusts the racket. And so you'll see a player move the racket and pull first, and then they use their forearm to adjust, and they keep the racket moving through. And this is where I think a lot of recreational players make the mistake. They try to and stop, okay? And then what happens is the weight of the racket head and the speed of it just kind of flops over. And so they always get kind of this move. Compared to, you see the pros, as they're pulling, they're adjusting racket face, and they keep pulling forward. So it looks like this, okay? And then after that, you have the finish. And for the most part, honestly, if you make the right pull and the racket face, you're golden. The finish can be here with a lot of players. Sometimes I finish higher. Sometimes you see players finish lower. What really matters is that the finish just allows you to relax. So let's do a couple drills to really make sure you've cemented all these things, and you could do it at your local court. All I'm gonna do here is work on my preparation, my pull, and my racket face. But what I really want you to focus on is the racket face. Now, one other really important thing that I almost forgot to mention is where we're making contact. One big issue with a lot of recreational players is they're making contact for the slice way out in front at the end of the pull, okay? We wanna make it in the middle of the pull, which means you're gonna make it generally around the center to the front of your shoulder, maybe slightly in front. Obviously, if you're just trying to get the ball over, you do whatever you can, but this is the range where you wanna make that contact. So what I want you to start off with is actually not doing the full pull and across, but start the racket off in the half position. What I mean by half position, if we start our hand here before, and this is the end, half is in the middle. And by having it half, I just want you to have the racket face actually open. I want the ball to go high. Have it open and come across it. So what's gonna happen is something like this. Ooh, that was actually a nice drop shot. So I didn't swing that hard. It went nice and high, and it went over the net. Totally fine. Do that a couple times. I know you're thinking, I didn't come here to learn how to make my slice fly in the air. But what I want you to do now is close the racket face of contact and keep pulling through. So it now changed to this. It goes a little bit lower, okay? And then what we're gonna do is do that 10 times, where you can get the ball to go from being really high to probably about 5-6 feet over the net. And then we're gonna go even lower. And I just want you to feel the difference of how I'm adjusting my forearm and the racket face angle. Once you do this enough times where you can feel like, hey, when my racket face is open, the ball's gonna go high. When my racket face is more closed, by repositioning my forearm as I'm moving forward, then the ball's gonna go lower. Then I want you to go to the full swing. So I'm gonna prepare, and you can see how the ball just jets through the court, and I'm coming across the ball. I have a saying from a friend who is a phenomenal player, Peter Duhan. He's the guy that when there's like best upsets of all time, beat Boris Becker at Wimbledon. And he told me, he was like, slice and power don't mix. And so many people don't understand that, and they're trying to kill the slice. Like, instead of using finesse, it's a finesse shot, not a power shot. And this is what we need to understand to make sure we get the most out of it. Now that you understand the racket face, what I'm gonna have you do is prepare, drop the ball, and then we're gonna step and just turn our hips. And just try to work on managing the racket face. Like that one went a little lower, I might open it a little bit more. It's pretty windy today, so I might even add a little bit more height, and you can see how the ball's kind of curving. But it's really important to understand that with these 3 moves, the preparation, the pull, and the racket face, that's all you need to make sure you have a great knifing slice that you can make sure you disrupt any opponent, regardless of what level they are.